Matt. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Gary. Okay. First of all, fantastic to see so many people here today. So thanks ever so much for taking time out of your schedules to, to come here and attend. So this is me. My name's Matt. I look after two things at Legrand Electric Limited, training and BIM, Building Information Modelling. So I haven't got a clicker. Where's my clicker? Here it is. Crikey. That didn't work out very well. So I'm just going to spend 15 minutes talking about the subject you can see here, specifying cable containment systems to maximise fire safety. This is a really important subject for us, I think, today. There's three areas of it here, as you can see. Two little sections in Chapter 42, which is protection against thermal effects. There's two regulations there that I'll quickly cover. Top one's very important. It's the redrafting of escape routes, and I'll point out some of the little pointers on that hopefully you'll find useful. The main change is this one at the bottom, which is a significant change for us as a manufacturer, but I think you guys in the audience as well as installers. So let's move on to the first one here. So this is Regulation 422.2.1, which is around escape routes and the redrafting of that particular section. So you can see I've put quite a bit of text up on here, but I'll try and pick out the highlight points. So it talks a little bit here about the construction products regulations, and Gary mentioned those earlier in terms of cables. Just to give you a pointer on that, because we don't manufacture and supply cables, but this is quite important. Cables that you buy now under the construction products regulation have to be accompanied by a document called a DOP, a DOP, which is a Declaration of Performance. A DOP document covers all the technical characteristics of that cable. So previously, before the CPR regulation, you could request a certificate of compliance from a manufacturer. That's effectively just an A4 letterhead with a company stamp in the corner that says, I as the manufacturer declare that my product complies with the standard. That's all it says, nothing else. The declaration of performance that accompanies a cable now under the CPR has to have all of the technical information. So it's just a pointer to take away. But we can see on here there's some words in red, particularly cables in escape routes shall be as short as practicable. Okay, you could say what's the definition of practicable, open to interpretation perhaps, but what we don't want is cables in escape routes being able to hang down into the pathways that people are either trying to escape from or the fire crews are coming into, because we don't want to risk any entanglement. Probably I could give you three examples of why this is really important. Shirley Towers in Southampton, I think it was 2010, where 2 fire crews were actually killed because they were snagged and entangled in cables that came down. Grenfell, we all know about that one. That's not attributable to cable management systems or the cabling. It was facades and fire doors and things like that, but it's the regulations around it that were, let's say, compromised. So we need to be really careful that we are sticking to all of the regulations that that govern our industry. And there was another one in another country. It was called the Madrid Tower. It was in Madrid actually, and that was a fire in a riser, and it burned out 20 floors of a high-rise building, straight up the riser shaft. No loss of life, luckily, but the regulations around it were, let's say, lax. So this is what we're trying to tighten up. Cables encroaching on escape routes, it says here, shall not be installed within arm's reach unless they're provided with mechanical protection. So mechanical protection would be some kind of cable management system, be it a cable ladder, a cable tray, a wire mesh, a cable trunking, any of those things. But what we need to do is make sure that the products we're selecting shall be in compliance with these standards that we put here. Not might, could, maybe, or possibly, but they shall be. This is really important because all of these standards are designed to maximize quality products and safety. So This is a definition of an escape route from the 17th edition, and it says a path to follow for access to a safe area in the event of an emergency. That definition is unchanged, so the 18th edition carries that through as well. We'll come back to that shortly and just expand on it a little bit further. Sorry, I've got a clicker problem, which is packed up a little bit. In fact, there we go. Okay. So the next little part here, which is an important amendment, if you like, to this particular regulation, which is 4.422, tiny writing on here, 422.3. It's locations with risk of fire due to the nature of processed or stored materials. So what this is saying in effect is that if we have these areas, we again shall make sure that the products we're putting into those systems comply with all of the relevant standards and with the tests along the lines of satisfying fire conditions, as you can see here, which are all stipulated in those standards. There's also been a note added to this section at the bottom, you can see there in the red, that the risk of flame propagation can be higher when cables are bunched, and that's usually on a ladder, probably some kind of cleating arrangement, or they're installed in long vertical runs. So we need to try, if we can, to minimize that kind of situation. So that's just a note that's been added there. This is the main change. This is a significant change for us as an industry, and I think it will probably impact everybody within this room, from us as a manufacturer, but for you as the installers as well. It'll also impact the, the architects, the specifiers, the designers, everybody that's really involved in these kinds of projects. It's not just us saying it's a significant change. This is a quote from the British Standards Institute. So, 1st of January 2019, all cables need to be adequately supported against their premature collapse. But this is now throughout an installation, not just in escape routes as it was previously. This is a substantial update. Okay, so we go back to the diagram that I nicked off the internet. I put the green lines on myself, but I nicked the diagram. So here we have the designated escape routes indicated in the 17th edition that have a rigorous cabling requirement. All of the other zones around there have a less rigorous cabling requirement. So cables might be clipped up, they might be laying across grids, whatever they might be, but it's a less rigorous cabling requirement. In the event of a fire, and my example here shows that our escape route is no longer operational because there's a fire condition in the building. We've got some problems here. There's a possibility that the fire might spread, but we've also got some zones out of commission. So what we need to do is find a different way out of the building. So what we need to remember here, though, is while we're doing that, under the 17th edition, those other zones have a less rigorous cabling requirement. So there's actually a danger to people leaving the building, trying to leave the building, but also for people who are coming into the buildings. That's fire crews, that could be police, emergency services, ambulance, that type of thing. Those people who are coming into the building are also in danger in those zones because there's a less rigorous cabling requirement, and in those areas cables could be susceptible to premature collapse. In the 18th edition, we still have an escape route because we have to have that, otherwise it would be impossible to get people out of a building in case of emergency. So we have a designated escape route that's designed in right at the beginning of the project, probably by the architect or somebody like that. And we can look through the chapters previously to see that the rules for escape routes still apply. But the difference is, in the 18th edition, you can see the words in red over here on the left, the significant change. This isn't a small change, this is a really big change. Cables now need to be supported against premature collapse in the entirety of a building. The entirety of a building. This isn't just overhead cable containment, this is perimeter cable containment as well. It's everything within that building has to be protected against premature collapse. So now if we have a fire situation, we still need to find an alternative way to leave the building, because my example again shows that we can't use the fire escape exits. However, those other zones now, we've got 3, 4, 6 and 7 operational, but the cables in there are now adequately supported against premature collapse. So, in extreme cases, when all of the exits are blocked, the fire crews might need to make their own entry point into a building, but they can do that in a much safer fashion now under this edition than previously, because when they come through the wall or the windows or whatever, all of the cables that are above their heads are now protected against premature collapse. So, just wrapping that bit up there, it just says it there, it's a significant change. It applies throughout the installation and not just in escape routes. So, this new edition says that if you are using metal containment systems, you completely comply with this edition, completely, no question. It also says that it now precludes or doesn't allow the use of plastic, clips, clamps, ties, or even non-metallic cable management systems if they're the sole means of support. So if you're only using plastic, whether it's plastic or PVC trays or conduits or ducting, whatever it might be, plus plastic clips and ties and cleats and clamps and that kind of thing, it's in contravention of this 18th edition. So we need to use metal. The simplest thing is everything metal, you comply, no questions asked. You can sign off all your projects, happy that we've complied with, you know, all of the regulations and probably the legal aspects of the Electricity at Work Act as well. So, just wrapping up that little bit, section 527, which follows after the one we've just looked at, says that the risk of spread of fire shall be minimised by selection of appropriate materials. What are appropriate materials? The stuff that we've just been talking about, really. Getting away from the plastic and utilising metal containment systems and cleats and clamps and that kind of thing, because that's the thing that's going to put us in complete alignment with the regulation. So it's making sure that we just have all the necessary resistance to flame propagation and all of that type of thing within those standards there. So in terms of how do we do it, I could point you to BS 8519. So the title for that, if you can't read that from there, is Selection and Installation of Fire-Resistant Power and Control Cable Systems for Life Safety and Firefighting Applications. It's a really good standard, and there's two key points in there that I'd pick out, sections 15 and 16 around cable installation practice and cable support systems. So effectively, the standard tells you how to set up your cable management system in escape routes and life safety areas. Some good pointers in there. It tells you how to coordinate your services, but it also talks in the bit I haven't highlighted under there about premature collapse in the event of a fire if we don't comply with regulatory approaches. Obviously, the 18th edition being the new one, we need to be adhering to that. The second section over there, cable support systems on your right, my left, talks about fire survival times and how we can work those out. This particular standard gives some calculations as well around supports and what types and what size of supports we should be using. So if you take an example where we have the cable weight, then we pick the relevant size cable containment, we pick the drops and the hangers and the supports and so on. We plug all that into the calculation that's given within that standard there in that section, and it will give you the sizing calculation for all of your drop rods, etc. So this standard 8519 just gives us an indication as to how we can really take the, that section of the wiring regs, the 18th edition, and make it work for us. So I just wanted to put that one in front of you there for some guidance and some information, really. So that is the three sections. Obviously, as I say before, and I say it again, chapter 52 here, this is a significant change. So it's moving away where at all, well, not where at all possible, at all times really, of using plastics as a sole means of support. So you still can use plastic, but you must intersperse it with metalwork. So you can't use plastics as a sole means, as I say. Significant change. So if we take anything from this 15 minutes I've just spent up here talking to you about this, just remember this. Chapter 52, significant change. So get your books out after and just read up on that and have a look and see what it says. So that's my 15 minutes done. Thank you very much for listening to me.